You finally log into your banking app, your thumb hovering over the screen, and there it is, the comma, the two zeros after the one. You have officially saved your first $100,000. You wait for the confetti to fall from the ceiling, you wait for the background music to swell, and you wait to feel like a completely different person. But then you close the app, look around your apartment, and realize absolutely nothing has changed. You still have to do the dishes, you still have to go to work tomorrow, and honestly, you feel kind of empty. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to walk you through why this specific financial milestone triggers a psychological crash that no one talks about, and how to stop it from ruining your bank account. The reality is that hitting your first 100K is often the most dangerous moment in your financial journey because it triggers a massive dopamine crash. Picture this in your head right now. You've bought one of those giant party poppers for New Year's Eve. You're counting down. The clock hits midnight. You pull the string with all your might, and instead of a massive explosion of glitter, it just makes a sad phut sound and releases a tiny cloud of gray dust. That is exactly what your brain feels like right now. We are biologically wired to seek, not to find. Dr. Andrew Huberman and countless neuroscientists have explained that dopamine is the molecule of more, not the molecule of having. For the last few years, your entire identity has been the grinder. You are the person sacrificing latte money. You are the person driving the beat-up Honda Civic. You are the underdog fighting to get to six figures. Every time you transferred $500 to your savings, you got a hit of motivation because you were getting closer. But now that you are actually there, the game is over. The dragon is dead. And your brain is panicking because it doesn't have a mission anymore. This leads to a phenomenon Harvard psychologist Tal Ben-Shahar calls the arrival fallacy. It is the false belief that reaching a specific destination will bring lasting happiness. You convinced yourself that life begins at 100K, so you put your actual happiness on hold to get there. Now you have the money, but you haven't practiced being happy, so you just feel bored. And here is where it gets risky. There is a concept I call the 100K curse, and it is the reason why a terrifying percentage of young savers end up blowing a massive chunk of their net worth within 24 months of hitting this milestone. I'm going to explain exactly how that curse works and the specific trapdoor you're about to walk into later in this video. But first, we have to look at the math, because your money is about to behave very differently than it did before. If you're feeling that weird mix of pride and disappointment, hit the like button right now, because it tells me I'm not the only one who didn't know what to do with their hands after crossing the finish line. The problem isn't that you are ungrateful. The problem is that your brain is looking for a new threat to fight. And since you don't have one, you might accidentally create one. Welcome to the most agonizing phase of wealth building, the boring middle. If the first $100,000 was a high-intensity sprint where you were sweating and gasping for air, this next phase is like sitting in a waiting room reading a 3-year-old magazine while waiting for a doctor who is out to lunch. The reason you feel useless right now is that for the first time in your financial life, your effort matters less than your patience. Let's look at the math, because it is the only thing that will keep you sane. When you have $0, you have to do 100% of the heavy lifting. You are manually shoveling cash into the furnace to keep the engine running, but once you cross 100K, the market finally starts to pick up the shovel. If you have $100,000 invested in a standard S&P 500 index fund, and we assume a historical average return of roughly 10%, which is what the market has averaged over the last century according to official market data, your money is going to generate $10,000 this year while you sleep. That is a decent used car, or a really nice vacation, created out of thin air. Here is the timeline shock that usually breaks people's brains. If it took you 7 years of grinding to save your first 100K, it will likely take you less than 3 years to save your second 100K, assuming you keep contributing the same amount. The first 100K is a slog through mud, the second 100K is a jog on pavement. But here's the problem. Your brain hates this. We are evolved to be hunters, not farmers. Your ancestors survived because they saw a deer, threw a spear, and ate dinner immediately. They didn't survive by planting a seed and staring at the dirt for 6 months, hoping something green would pop up. But investing is farming. It is literally watching paint dry. You are checking your brokerage account every day looking for a dopamine hit, but the number barely moves day to day. You feel like you should be doing something to help, but the best thing you can do is literally nothing. This brings us to a concept called the 7-year rule, which dictates exactly when your money starts making more money than you do at your 9 to 5 job. It's the tipping point where you become financially unstoppable. But most people never get there because they fail the test I'm about to describe in the next part. If you are tempted to tinker with your portfolio just to feel alive again, you need to listen closely. This brings us to the moment where you are most likely to burn your own house down. I call it the itch. It starts innocently enough. You have the $100,000 secured, the emergency fund is full, and the retirement account is maxed out. You are bored. So you open your brokerage app, not to check the balance, but to optimize. You start thinking, if I'm this good at saving, imagine how good I'd be at options trading. Or maybe I should put 20% of this into that new crypto coin my cousin won't shut up about. Here is a major myth we need to bust right now. The idea that active investing beats passive investing. Movies and TikTok have convinced you that wealthy people are constantly shouting into phones and staring at 6 monitors. The reality, a study by Fidelity famously found that their best performing accounts belonged to people who had either forgotten they had an account or were literally dead. The corpse was outperforming the day trader because the corpse wasn't tinkering. The itch tells you that doing more equals more money. But in the stock market, activity is the enemy of returns. But there is a deeper, darker psychological trigger happening here called chaos addiction. If you grew up in a household where money was always tight, where your parents fought about bills, or where good times were always followed by a financial disaster, your nervous system is wired for stress. You associate peace with the calm before the storm. So when you hit 100K and everything is finally quiet and safe, your brain screams, something is wrong. You subconsciously self-sabotage by overspending or making a risky bet, just to bring the chaos back to a level that feels familiar to you. This is the true nature of the 100K curse. It isn't some magical bad luck, it is the physiological rejection of stability. I saw a thread on the r personal finance subreddit just last year where a guy hit his 100K milestone at 26, felt like he had made it, and immediately bought a $55,000 truck to reward himself. He justified it by saying he could afford the monthly payments. But he didn't calculate the opportunity cost. If he had left that $55,000 in the market at 7% interest, it would have been worth over $400,000 by the time he retired. That truck didn't cost him $55,000, it cost him nearly $500,000 of his future freedom. He cured his boredom, but he killed his compounding. So, if you are feeling that itch, if you are staring at a car lease or a risky stock ticker right now, put the phone down. You are trying to solve an emotional problem with a financial tool, and that never works. But I know you can't just sit on your hands forever. You need a way to let off steam without blowing up your portfolio. I have a strategy for this called the 5% sandbox that I'll explain in a minute. But first, we need to completely reframe how you look at your job, because 100K just gave you a superpower you probably haven't noticed yet. Let's play an imagination game. Picture this. It is Tuesday morning. Your boss walks into your office, slams a stack of papers on your desk, and starts screaming at you for a mistake you didn't make. He is red in the face, veins popping, threatening to fire you. Now, freeze that image. How fast is your heart beating? If you have $0 in the bank, your heart is pounding out of your chest because you are terrified. You need this job to pay rent. You have to take the abuse. Now, replay that same scene. But this time, you know you have $100,000 sitting in your brokerage account. How is your pulse now? It's calm. You might even be smiling a little bit. That isn't just money, that is the fortress. And we need to stop calling this phase boring and start calling it secure. $100,000 is the foundation of your FU money. It isn't enough to retire on a yacht, but it is enough to say no. It buys you the ability to walk away from a toxic boss, to survive a layoff without panic, or to take a month off to clear your head. It changes the power dynamic between you and your employer completely. You are no longer working because you have to survive until Friday. You are working because you choose to be there. The boredom you feel is actually the sound of safety. It's quiet inside the fortress because the wolves can't get in anymore. But here is the critical shift you need to make. You have to separate your money life from your actual life. For the last few years, your money was your life. Tracking every penny was your hobby, your passion, and your personality. Now, your money life needs to be boring so your actual life can be exciting. If your investments are boring, it means they are working. It means you aren't gambling. You need to stop looking at your bank account for entertainment. Go climb a mountain, learn to salsa dance, start a YouTube channel, do something risky and thrilling with your time, not your net worth. Your portfolio should be as exciting as watching a glacier move, so that your Saturday nights can be as exciting as a blockbuster movie. But I know what you're thinking. Dan, that sounds great, but I still want to play the game. You missed the rush of the early days. You missed the hustle. Well, good news. You don't have to stop hustling. You just have to change the game you are playing. We are going to switch from the savings game to the earning game using a strategy I call the two-game strategy. If you are feeling restless right now, it is likely because you are addicted to progress and your current strategy has run out of road. So let's take a quick quiz to figure out exactly what is wrong with your brain. Ask yourself, are you a builder or a manager? A builder loves the chaos of starting from zero, the late nights, and the rapid growth. A manager loves stability, spreadsheets, and small optimizations. If you saved 100K in your 20s or 30s, you are almost certainly a builder. But the problem is, once you hit 100K, the financial game forces you to become a manager, and builders hate managing. You don't need less stress, you need a new mission. Since you have beaten the saving game, meaning you have already cut your expenses as low as they can reasonably go, you have hit a ceiling. You can't save more than 100% of your income. So, you need to pivot to the earning game, where the ceiling doesn't exist. This is the pivot. You stop obsessing over the price of avocados and start obsessing over your income stream. Because you have that 100K fortress we talked about, you can now afford to take career risks that broke people can't. You can ask for that aggressive raise. You can jump to a competitor for a 20% bump, or you can start that side business that might fail. If you fail, you have a safety net. If you succeed, you double your cash flow. This is how you make the math move faster without touching the principal. But I know you still have that urge to gamble. You want to pick the next Tesla or catch the next crypto pump. Ignoring that urge completely often leads to a binge. So instead of fighting it, we are going to contain it with the 5% sandbox. Here's the rule. You take 95% of your portfolio and lock it away in those boring, low-cost index funds we talked about. You never touch that. That is your freedom fund. But the remaining 5%, that is your sandbox. You can do whatever you want with it. Buy meme stocks, buy Bitcoin, invest in your friend's coffee shop, or buy vintage Pokemon cards. This scratches the psychological itch to be smart and beat the market without risking your financial future. If that 5% goes to zero, you are still rich. But if it goes to the moon, you get to feel like a genius. It separates your need for entertainment from your need for survival. A 2023 survey by Bankrate found that nearly 40% of Gen Z investors own individual stocks, often driven by social media hype. The sandbox allows you to participate in that cultural conversation without becoming a casualty of it. So, you have your boring money working in the background, you have your fun money in the sandbox, and you have your energy focused on increasing your income. You are now running a sophisticated financial operation. But there is one final realization that separates the people who stay at 100K from the people who get to $1 million. It involves a secret weapon that is invisible, silent, and absolutely ruthless if you ignore it. We started this video talking about how boring it feels to be where you are, but I want to end by telling you that this boredom is actually your ticket to the 1%. Charlie Munger, the late billionaire and Warren Buffett's right-hand man, famously said, "The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you got to do it." He didn't say it was fun, he said it was necessary. But he also said that after you get there, the money just starts throwing itself at you. Let's fast forward your life. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine it is 10 years from today. You are a decade older. You didn't touch the money. You didn't buy the stupid truck. You kept your head down. You let the boredom wash over you, and you focused on your career. That $100,000, without you adding another penny, has likely doubled to $200,000 or more. But because you kept contributing, you are probably sitting on $500,000 or more. You are waking up in a house you own. You aren't stressed about bills, and you have options that your friends who chased excitement don't have. This is the millionaire's secret weapon, time. It is the only asset you have that you can never buy back. The boring middle is where you buy your future freedom. You haven't finished the race, you just finished the training wheels. The real race starts now, and the only person you are racing against is your own impatience. So embrace the boredom, love the boredom, let it be the quiet hum of your engine running perfectly in the background while you go out and live a loud, exciting life. If this video helped you reframe the grind, do me a favor. Hit the like button right now. It helps the algorithm show this to other people who are about to make a huge financial mistake. Subscribe if you want to master the psychology of money, not just the math. And in the comments, I want you to drop one word, fortress. Let me know you are building your shield. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.